Eduk 197, and my topic is about permutation. So as far as I know, many of you are actually teaching grade 10 in our deployment. So this topic is actually just a recall or recap to all of you, especially Mr. Gideon, Warren, Christine, Steve, Jay, Mary Joy, Sumayang. I know all of you are teaching grade 10 during our internship, so this is just a recall. And if I have some mistakes, don't hesitate to correct me. And of course, if hindi ko na cover yung ibang part, so don't hesitate to add additional for our or for my topic. So let's proceed. Wala naman nagpapa-admit. Wait lang, double check ko. Kung wala. Wala nagpapa-admit. Okay, so let's start. So my topic is permutation, but before we proceed, I want everyone to please prepare your scientific calculator as it will be used in our online discussion today. But today, yes, nandito na siya. So, actually, this is, as far as I know, we are allowed to use scientific calculator in our LET. So, since competency appraisal is one or is a review for our, or a preparation for our licensure examination. So, I know that scientific calculator is allowed in our exam. So, I want you to prepare scientific calculator since we will going to use it for easiest way or as the easiest permutation. So, for my objectives for today, so we have to recall the permutation and the types of permutations. Second one is solve problems involving permutations using the different formulas. And of course, show some easiest way on how to solve permutations. So before we proceed to discussion, I have here a questions. So let's say that there are 7 students eating in a round table in the canteen. So Jessie, Ariana, and Nikki are really close to each other that even in sitting, they are always together. In how many ways can you arrange the students? So letter A, 144, B, 210, C, 720, D, 840, and letter E is 5040. So I'll be giving you 5 minutes to try answering this problem in your own or with your knowledge, especially to those grade 10 and for those not from for those students who are not familiar with the term permutation, try to answer it as long as you can. So you can type your answer in the chat box. And your timer starts now. Ay, kano sagot mo? Hindi mo alam sagot. So once you have your answers, wait lang. Ah? Ano, 576 pala. Wala naman sagot. Wala daw sagot sa dito. Meron. Kalimutan. Okay, may I see if some students have their answer? Nathan. So, Irod, according to him, it's letter E. Vanessa, it's letter
Letter
E.
C.
Monica, letter E. According to Ramon, it's letter C. Jamie, it's letter E. Warren, it's letter D. So, Warren, letter C. Gideon, it's letter A. So, may naiba. Meron tayong letter A. While Domingo, Guevara is letter C. Carla is letter E. So, let's see if your answer is correct. So, we still have time. You still have 2 minutes and 30 seconds to answer. Okay, so this is actually good since all of you are having different responses and different answers. So we will see later if your answer is correct.
Letter A. Letter E.
Okay, so according to Mr. Steve, it's letter A. So what about the others? According to Cristel, it's letter
24 times 6 ata siya.
and according to Jelena, it's letter B. Okay, so later, Steve, we will see if your answer is correct. Since according to you, the answer is letter A. Okay, so last 1 minute and 30 seconds. Okay, so according to Miss Baho, the answer is letter A also. Sige, pag nakuha yung tamang sagot sa Gcash, 2 pesos. I think that's enough.
Pwede explain.
Yes, I'm going to explain it later po. Okay, you still have 1 minute. At kapag pumutok ang vulkan, your time is up. Okay, so last 20 seconds. So how many students are here? So we have A, another response for Warren. Actually, based from your answer earlier, it's letter C. But you change your answer into letter A. So, okay. So may mga nagulat ba sa ating bulkan? May mga nagulat ba? Nagising ba? Sakit sa tenga. Parang bubong na.
Nanakit yung tenga ko doon.
Medyo mahina yung voice mo, Ken.
Ayan. Rinig na?
Medyo mahina pa din.
Mahina? Bakit mahina? Hello? Ayan.
Malakas na.
Okay, so let's proceed. So later on, we will answer that question. So all of you will be enlightened on how to solve this problem. And since all of you have different responses, so we will see if which of you got the correct answer. So let's have first the definition of a permutation. So let's proceed now to our formal discussion. So when we say permutation, it actually refers to the different possible arrangement of a set of objects. So in permutation, the order of the object is important. So I want you all to remember that when you say permutation, order of the objects is really important. So there are actually four types of permutation. So we have the first one is the permutation of n objects, or this is actually called as, or the other term for this one is the linear permutation. I think some of you are actually familiar with the term linear permutation. So that is linear permutation. So followed by the second one, which is the distinguishable permutation. The third one is the permutation of n objects taken r at a time. And number four is the circular permutation. So let's start first with the permutation of n objects, or like what I said earlier, this is actually called as the linear permutation. So when we say linear permutation or the permutation of n objects, is it is the permutation of n distinct objects taken all at once. And it is given by the permutation of n objects taken n at a time that is equal to n factorial. So the permutation of n objects is equal to n factorial. And as far as I remember, you still remember that n factorial is actually explained by Mr. Espela earlier. And that is, we just have to expand it. So we just have to expand it. So I have here example for the permutation of n objects or linear permutation. So for number one, let's say that arranging four persons in a row for a picture taking. So I just have additional information that in the linear permutation, we only have one value, that is n. And the n is actually the total number of objects to be arranged. Again, letter n is actually the total number of objects that is needed to arrange. So again, for our example number one, so we have the arranging four persons in a row for a picture taking. So as you can see in our example number one, we only have one value and that is 4. So therefore, the value of our n here is is 4. And again, the formula that we are going to use is the permutation of n objects taken at n at a time is equal to n factorial. So we can now substitute the value of n to our formula. So therefore, we now have the permutation of 4 objects taken 4 at a time. So I want you all also to remember that we are going to read this formula as the permutation of n objects taken n at a time is equal to n factorial. So therefore, the value of our n is 4, and that is 4 factorial. So according to the discussion of Mr. Espela earlier, if we have 4 factorial, we just have to expand it by subtracting by 1, right? So if we're going to expand this one for factorial, what would be the result? So we have, anyone who can give me the expand, yes,
For
Mr.
thanks.
Paume.
For
24.
We just have to expand it first.
4 times 3 times 2 times.
Okay, so we have 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Okay. O nga pala, no, Mr. Paun is also teaching grade 10 in internship. So therefore, the answer is correct. That is 24. So your answer is correct. So what about for the number 2? So according to our example number 2, we have to arrange the 5 different figurines in a shelf. So since the value of our n is 5, therefore, we have to substitute it to our formula wherein the permutation of n objects taken are n at a time is equal to n factorial. So that is the permutation of 5 objects taken 5 at a time is equal to 5 factorial. So let's proceed. So we just have to expand it again by subtracting by 1. So that is 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So the answer is what?
120.
Okay, very good. The answer is 120. So that is for our item number 2. So now, based on our example number 3, we have to arrange the digits of the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So if I'm going to ask you, what is the value of our n? Okay, so Mr. Paone again.
10.
10, are you sure?
9 pala.
Okay, so the value of n is actually 9. Kasi we just have to count the numbers from, or the digit. So we have 1. Actually, we don't need to count it kasi kita na 1 to 9 siya. So therefore, 9 yung value nung ating n. Pero kung bibilangin talaga natin siya, this is actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So that is n is equal to 9. So therefore, what is the value of our, or what is the permutation, or what is the, or how many arrangement do we have? What is the answer? So therefore, we have the permutation of n objects taken n at a time, and that is equal to n factorial. So we have permutation of 9 objects taken 9 at a time is equal to 9 factorial. So now I'm going to, so are you having now, or you already have your scientific calculator? Do you have your scientific calculator in your hand? Okay, yes. So actually, I'm waiting for this. Nakalimutan ko din kanina sabihin kay Mr. Steve that actually we can use scientific calculator in terms of factorial. Kasi what if the value is too large? Let's say we have 20 factorial. Di ba? We just have to expand it like 20 times 19 up to 1. So parang masyado siyang matrabaho. So actually, using your scientific calculator, we can find the value of 9 factorial but by just uh, um, tawag dito, clicking the 9, shift, and the factorial. So, paano ko ba ipapakita? Meron, nakikita niyo ba yung factorial dyan sa inyong cellphones? Hindi.
Yes.
Hindi. Sige, wait lang. Paano ko palitan yung camera? Paano ibabaliktad? Okay. Ayan. So, ito. So, supportive yun. Ayan. So, ganito. So, ito kasi, kung makikita nyo, yung x raised to, x raised to negative 1, may nakalagay dyan na x factorial. So, kumbaga, ang gagawin nyo lang is click nyo muna si 9, which is yung 9, tapos shift, tsaka factorial. Tapos, ganyan yung lalabas. So, we have 9 factorial. Then, kapag yung equal, lalabas na yung sagot, which is 362,880. So therefore, this is now the value of our 9 factorial. So that is 362,880. Thank you. Very supportive naman, sana all. Okay, next. So we, by the way, nasundan ba yung regarding sa calculator, sa scientific calculator?
Yes po.
Yes.
So nakuha nyo. So if you already got it, so what do you think is the answer for our number 4? So for number 4, what's the answer? Okay, so according to them, the answer is 3,628,800. Okay, Miss Rizel, can you please repeat the value of n? What is the value of n?
10.
So therefore, we have the permutation of 10 objects taken 10 at a time is equal to 10 factorial. So what is the answer again?
3,628,800.
28,800. So this is our 10 factorial. Any questions?
Wala na po.
Okay, I think permutation of n objects or linear permutation is very easy to all of you. So we can now proceed to our next type of permutation, which is the distinguishable permutation. So when you say distinguishable permutation, it refers to the permutations of the set of objects where some of them are alike. And the number of distinguishable permutations of n objects where p are alike, q are alike, r are alike, and so on is so given by, so we have the permutation is equal to n factorial all over the p factorial multiplied by q factorial multiplied by r factorial and so on. So what do you think why we have the 3 dots here or the ellipsis here in our formula of distinguishable permutation?
Ano yun? Pakiulit nga po.
Yes, Steve?
Ano tanong?
Why do we have ellipsis here in our formula sa denominator? Okay.
Ay para sa mga repeated letters.
Repeated letters. So what about you, Miss Christine?
Yung ellipsis dyan, yan yung nag-i-state kung ilan pa yung mga identical elements na meron sa isang given ayun, nagma-matter siya sa given. Kaya may dot, dot, dot or ellipsis.
Yes, nagma-matter kasi siya sa given. So hindi naman kasi tayo mag-i-stick lang sa na hanggang tatlong alike lang hanggang tatlo lang yung magkakapareho. Possible kasi na umabot pa siya ng 4, 5, 6 kaya kumbaga kaya siya may ellipsis so on ibig sabihin extendable siya. So let's have first the first example which is we have to arrange the digits in the number 2, 5, 6, 3, 6, 5, and 6. So in order to solve this problem using distinguishable permutation, of course, we have first to find the given. So if you still remember that the formula is permutation is equal to n factorial all over p factorial, q factorial, and r factorial, and so on. So let's have first the value of n. So the value of n, again, when we say n, it is the total number of objects that we need to arrange. So based here in our digits, how many digits do we have?
7.
7.
So we have 7. And for our P, so actually my idea in distinguishable permutation is let's start first from left to right. So since in the left side, the first digit is 2, so let's start with 2. Now, in our 7 digits, how many two numbers do we have? Or how many two digits are
1.
here in 7 digits? 1. So, alisin na natin siya. So, therefore, yung P natin is equal to 1. Kasi yan yung nagpapakita na merong isang 2 dun sa 7 digit. Malinaw?
Opo.
Okay, next. Since we are done with 2, let's proceed with the value of Q. So, yung Q naman, since tapos na tayo sa 2, proceed na tayo kay 5. Kasi siya yung pangalawa. Ngayon, ilang 5 meron sa 7 digits?
2.
Dalawa. So we have Q is equal to 2 kasi meron dalawang 5 na number dun sa 7 digit. Next, R. So what is the value of R? So proceed tayo kay 6. So ilang 6 meron?
3.
3. 1, 2, and 3. So therefore, 3 3 ay yung number 6. Now, 'di ba kanina sabi ko sa formula, it is expandable or extendable since as you can see here in our 7 digits, we still have numbers left, which is yung number 3. And we indicate or use letter S. Yan sa alphabetical, ang kasunod ng R is S. So ganun lang, sunod-sunod lang siya kung madadagdagan. So how many trees do ilang 3 na numbers ang meron sa 7 digit?
1.
1 na lang. So we have for number 3. So now we have now the value of our set. Yes, Miss Ibiosa, you want to say something?
Ken, pwede ba yan for example, pwede yan mag-rumble-rumble? For example, mauuna yung 2, tsaka 3, tapos 5, tapos 6. As long as yung niya, yung number ng permutation niya, tama.
Okay. Actually, that's actually a good question. So, yun nga, di ba, ang sinabi ko kanina, we start from left to right para hindi tayo magugulo. Although, yes, pwede naman siya maging rumble din, but make sure that, halimbawa, ito, yung pin natin is 1, Q2, R3, and S is 1. So, if you add it, that is equal to 7. Make sure na dapat equal siya dun sa value ng ating N. So, pwede siya marumble. It's up to you kung saan mo gusto mauna. Mag-start ka ba sa pinakamarami, yun yung P mo. Mag-start ka sa pinakaonte, yun yung P mo. It's up to you as long as that the value of PQRS is equal to the value of our N. Is it clear?
Okay na, Ken. Salamat.
Okay, thank you very much for that wonderful question. Let's proceed now to our solution. So we can now substitute the value of our given in our formula. So we have n factorial. So since the value of n is 7, that is equal to 7 factorial. So all over for P, so we have 1 factorial. And for Q, we have 2 factorial. Wait, ang pangatunto ko. And for R, we have 3 factorial. And for S is we have 1 factorial. So the next thing that we need to do is to expand it. So we have to expand the 7 factorial. So we have 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. All over, expand din natin yung ating denominator. So 1 factorial, that is equal to 1. So 2 factorial, that is equal to 2 times 1. And 3 factorial, that is equal to 3 times 2 times 1, and 1 factorial is equal to 1. Now, as you can see here in our data, so we can cancel out 3 times 2 times 1 and 3 times 2 times 1 from the denominator. So, ang matitira na lang is we have 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 all over, meron pa tayong 1 times 2 times 1 times 1. Tama ba? May na-miss ba ako? Oo, miss ko siya. It's good? Right? Wala akong nakalimutan?
Okay na, Ken.
Okay, so now let's simplify the numerator and denominator. So 7 times 6 times 5 times 4, that is actually equal to what? 840.
For
We have 1 times 2 times 1 times 1 in our denominator, and that is equal to
2.
2. So therefore, 840 all over 2, that is equal to
420.
420. So therefore, the distinguishable permutation is equal to 420. Is it clear?
Apo.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next. Let's proceed with number 2. So how many distinguishable permutations are there for the letters of the word reader? Leader pala, sorry. Leader. Nabuburol na ako. Okay, so let's have first the given again. So for our given, let's find the value of n. So how many letters do we have in the word leader?
6 po.
Okay, 6. Now, what is the value of our P? Okay, let's use the left to right process ha. Let's start with the first letter.
1.
So 1, that is for letter L. What is the value of Q?
2.
Alisin na natin yung L. So yung Q, we have 2 kasi meron tayong dalawang letter E. So that is, ang pangit ng tuko lagi. That is letter E. Next, for R.
1.
So we have 1 kasi meron tayong isang letter A sa word na leader. And for S, we have 1. Yung letter D. So we have 1 and R, S, T. So for T, yan, nag-extend ulit tayo kasi meron pa natitirang isang letter, which is 1 para sa letter R. Malinaw? Malinaw ba? Sige, react lang kayo.
Yes.
Okay, so let's proceed with our substitution. So again, what is the formula for distinguishable permutation? So we have permutation is equal to n factorial over p factorial times q factorial times r factorial and so on. So let's substitute now the value. So we have n, that is 6 factorial, all over. So we have p, q, and r. So p is 1 factorial, q is 2 factorial, R is 1 factorial, S is 1 factorial, and T is 1 factorial also. So let's expand 6 factorial. That is equal to 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 all over expand din natin. 1, then 2 factorial, that is 2 times 1. And puro 1 na lang yung tatlo. So times 1, and times 1. So we can cancel out 2 times 1 and 2 times 1 here. So yung denominator natin, that is actually equal to 1 na lang. So 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 ang natira. So we have 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 wala na pala siyang all over. So now, 6 times 5 times 4 times 3, what's the answer?
360.
We have 306. So that is actually our answer example number 2. Now, actually, I have another way to solve our distinguishable permutation. So let's go back here in our example number 1. So we're using the same given. So using the same given ha, kasi same problem naman, pwede natin siyang isolve this way. So we have P is equal to, we have 7 factorial all over, ano yun? 1 factorial, 2 factorial, 3 factorial, and 1 factorial. So, yung isang way kasi na naisip ko, since yung P natin at yung S natin is equal to 1 factorial lang naman, kapag in-expand natin siya, ano bang sagot dyan?
1 pa.
1. So, do you think we need to write it on our solution? Since 1 na rin naman yung ano niya?
No. No.
Kahit hindi na. So, ibig sabihin, alisin na natin si 1 factorial. Stick na tayo kay 2 at 3. So, pwede na natin ilagay na 2 factorial times 3 factorial. Now, ito pa yung isa. Ngayon, pag in-expand natin yung 7 factorial, tingin kayo sa denominator. Sa ating denominator, anong mas mataas? Yung 2 factorial o yung 3 factorial?
3 factorial.
3 factorial. So, ibig sabihin, we can write yung 7 factorial, kapag in-expand natin siya, pwede na natin siya i-expand as 7 times 6. Wait lang, sulat ko. Times 5 times 4 times 3 factorial. Stop na tayo sa 3 factorial. All over, yung 2 factorial, yung na lang yung i-expand natin. 2 times 1, then yung 3 factorial is 3 factorial na lang siya. Kasi pwede naman na natin silang i-cancel out. Now, sa ating numerator at denominator, yung 2 ba ay merong divisibility sa ating 6 at sa ating numerator?
Yes.
What number? What numbers?
4.
6 and 4.
6 and 4.
And 4.
But, let's say we have to use yung 4. I-ano natin siya, i-simplest form natin siya with 2. So, yung 2, pag sinimplest form natin, that is actually equal to 1. And yung 4 magiging
2.
2 na lang. So, ang ginawa lang natin dito is lowest term. But since we are not allowed to use the term lowest term, so, ang gagamitin talaga natin ay simplest form. So, sana be familiarized with that. So, therefore, this is 2. Sa'yo, ang matitira na lang ay 7 times 6 times 5 times 2. So, what's the answer?
420.
We still have the same answer, which is 420. Pero, meron pang mas madali dyan. Using your scientific calculator ulit. So, paano ba natin siya i-encode sa ating scientific calculator? So, di ba kanina naturo ko na kung paano i-encode yung factorial? So, marunong na mag-input ng factorial sa scientific calculator. So, ngayon, ang gagawin lang natin is try to input 7 factorial divide. Nakakasunod ba?
Yes po.
Divide 2 factorial. Then, yung 3 factorial, kailangan nyo siyang lagyan ng parenthesis. So, open parenthesis muna bago 3 factorial. Then, close parenthesis. So, press equal and the answer is still 420. Nakuha po ba? Nakuha po? So, ganito po siya. Ayan. So, we have 7 factorial divide by 2 factorial, tapos close parenthesis, 3 factorial is equal to 420. So, nakuha po ba? At least this time, we don't need to, for our let, we don't need to use or to calculate too long. Kasi 'di ba, using scientific calculator, we can easily identify the value of permutations. Okay, question? Question po?
None.
Okay, since there is no question, let's proceed now with... So, eto, gamitan pa ba natin ng short method? Or sige, try to use your calculator. Na aalisin naman na natin si 1, si R, si S, at si T. Since all of them is 1 factorial na lang. So, ibig sabihin, magkakaroon na lang tayo ng 6 factorial all over 2 factorial. So, ganun ulit. Try to input lang 6 factorial divide by 2 factorial. So, that is equal to 360 pa rin. So, you got the same answer ba?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So, I think that's good for this. I think we are all set in distinguishable permutation. So, let's proceed now with the permutation of n objects taken R at a time. So, for permutation of n objects, of distinct objects taken R at a time is given by, so kung kanina, n yung sa linear permutation, this time may R na tayo. Where this is actually called as the permutation or read as the permutation, which is yung letter P. So the permutation of n objects taken r at a time is equal to n factorial all over n minus r factorial. So where n is the total number of objects to be arranged and r is the number of objects taken at a time. So I want you all also to remember that in permutation of n objects taken r at a time, n is greater than or equal to r. Tandaan that n is greater than or equal to r. Kasi kapag mas malaki na si r, hindi na po natin siya mako-compute. So kailangan laging mas malaki si n kay r. Now, paano kung halimbawa si n ay nag-equal kay r? Sino nag-raise ng hand? Hindi ko nakita. Yes, Mr. Paune.
Under siya ng ibang type ng permutation.
And what type of permutation is that?
Permutation wherein repetition is allowed or replacement.
Repetition is allowed or replacement or basically, under lang din siya ng tinatawag natin na linear permutation. Kasi 'di ba, kung yung n is equal to r, therefore ang formula na gagamitin natin is same lang din, which is yung n factorial or the permutation of n objects taken n at a time is equal to n factorial. Okay, so let's have the first example for permutation of n objects taken r at a time. So how many ways can the letter A, B, C, D, and E be arranged using two letters at a time? Ay, sige. Naka-raise ka pa ng hand. May sasabihin ka pa, Pao?
Wala.
Okay, sige po. But still, that's correct for repetition. So, let's proceed with our first example. So here in our first example, again, the formula that we are going to use is the permutation of n objects taken r at a time is equal to n factorial all over n minus r factorial. So where the value of our n is what? So in our example number 1, the value of n is
5.
5 kasi we have 5 letters to be arranged, which is yung A, B, C, and D. Di na ba si ano? Di na ba sinusulat yung ways? Okay. So I forgot the unit. Sige. Sige, thank you. Yes, I forgot to write the ways. So that is actually 400 ways. Ano na yun? Uh, ah, nga, pero kailangan talaga yung unit. So, sige, yung unit, yes, dapat nakalagay talaga yan. So, again, the value of our, thank you, Jamie. Yeah, that's correct. So, don't forget always the unit. Pero nakalimutan ko. Sana all nakakalimutan. Okay, next. So, we have N is equal to 5 since that is the letter A, B, C, and D. And E pala, sorry. And what is the value of our R? 2. 2. Kasi sabi nga sa ating problem, that is 2 at a time. So therefore, we have now the value of our n and we have now the value of our r. So we can now substitute the value in our formula. So we have n factorial, that is actually 5 factorial, all over, yung n is 5, minus yung r natin is 2. So 5 minus 2 factorial. So we have 5 factorial. Let's simplify what's inside the parentheses, which is 5 minus 2. So 5 minus 2, that is equal to 3, which is 3 factorial. So let's apply na rin yung short method. Since yung dating denominator is 3 factorial, yung 5 factorial, pag in-expand natin, is hanggang 3 factorial na lang. So we have 5 times 4 times 3 factorial, all over 3 factorial. So we can now cancel it out, and that is equal to 5 times 4, and that is equal to
20.
20. So that is the easiest way to solve the permutation of n objects taken r at a time. Pero meron pang mas easy dyan. 20 ways. Sorry. So we have 20 ways. Okay, so next. Next is, sige, bago ko ituro yung sa calculator, let's have first our example number 2. Now, for our example number 2, as you can see, we can actually encounter this kind of problem. And as we all know, or I just want to add something or some information about the denotion or on how to denote permutation of n objects taken r at a time. So we can actually denote it in many ways. So the first one to denote permutation of n objects taken r at a time is we have P
or permutation of n objects taken are at a time, something like that. Or we can denote it also as the permutation of n objects, which is nasa taas yung n, taken r at a time, nasa baba naman yung r. Or yung ginagamit ngayon in high school, which is the permutation of n objects taken r at a time. So meron tayong three ways to denote permutation of n objects taken r at a time. So ito yung first one. So if we have here the permutation of 10 objects taken 5 at a time, so ibig sabihin, we can write it also as the permutation of 10 objects taken 5 at a time. Kasi yung n natin is yung 10 at yung r natin is yung 5. Or pwede rin natin siyang isulat as the permutation of 10 objects taken 5 at a time. Malinaw?
Yes.
Yes.
Malinaw? So hindi naman rinig yung ulan, no? Lakas ng ulan eh.
Di na
Okay. Okay, so let's proceed now to our solution. So again, the value of our n is 10 and the value of our r is 5. So let's use the formula. So again, the formula is a permutation of 10 objects taken 5 at a time. So that is equal to 10 factorial all over 10 minus 5 factorial. So ano muna natin? We have to simplify first what's inside the parentheses. So we have 10 factorial all over 10 minus 5. That is equal to what?
5 factorial.
Yes, very good. That is equal to 5 factorial. So, how are we going to expand 10 factorial? Anyone who can give me the expansion of 10 factorial?
10.
Yes, Wizel?
10 times 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 factorial yung pag pinasimple lang.
5 factorial. All over
5 factorial.
5 factorial. So we can now cancel out 5 factorial. So the value that we have right now is 5 times 9 times 8 times 7 times 6. And what is the answer?
30,240 ways.
Okay, very good. So we have 30,240 ways. Hello, mag-end na siya in 10 minutes. Okay, now, I'm going to teach you that in permutation of n objects taken r at a time can be solved in easiest way using your scientific calculator. Scientific calculator. So, I want you to look in your scientific calculator and using your scientific calculator, look for the NPR or kung wala yung NPR dyan, ang nakalagay ay NCR. Kasi ang NPR is we use it for permutation at yung NCR, we actually use it for combination. So later on, I think Miss Sumayang will also, or Ma'am Joy will also teach us on how to use scientific calculator for combination. So nakita ba ang NPR? Hello?
Ah.
Nakita. Ngayon, kung
Yes.
nakita nyo yung NPR, so itong problem natin na number 1, so we can write it as the permutation of 5 objects taken 2 at a time. So ang gagawin lang natin is we need to click yung 5. Click nyo yung 5, tapos click nyo yung NCR. Or ewan ko kung ano yung nasa button nyo. Minsan kasi baliktad yan. Ang nasa button nung sa akin ay NCR. Ngayon, isi-shift ko muna siya para maging P. So, magiging 5P, then click nyo yung 2. Nakuha? Nasusundan ba? Ngayon, pag click nyo yung equal, the answer is still 20. So, ibig sabihin, permutation of 5 objects taken 2 at a time is equal to 20 ways. Ayan. Okay, let's see. They have a question. So, 20 ways. And I think they have the answer for our next. Nakuha ba yung paggamit ng calculator?
Yes po.
Okay, since you got it, so if you're going to try in our example number 2, so we have 10, shift NCR or NPR, pero dapat P siya kasi permutation. 5, and the answer is still 3,240 ways. Okay, question. Okay, we still have 8 minutes. Question, wala nang tanong? Yes, Glory.
Ken, paano pala malalaman yung kung yung isang given ay yung for example, di ba may mga iba't ibang permutation?
Okay.
Paano malalaman kung anong permutation yun?
Okay. So I'm going to discuss it after nung circular permutation. Okay lang? Can you wait? Let's finish first circular permutation.
Ken, meron pa pala.
Ah, sige. So, but before that, try to use your scientific calculator and try to give me the value of the permutation of 20 objects taken 6 at a time using your scientific calculator. Let's see if you are able or you can now use your scientific calculator to find the value of permutation of n objects taken R at a time. So for our number 1, what is your answer? You can raise your hand. You can send your answer to chat. Yes, Mr. Paone.
27,907,200.
We have 27,907,200. Okay, very good. What about for item number 2? For item number 2. Di ba? Magagamit din natin siya if our answer is too large. If the value or the number is too large. Yes, Mr. Paone.
32,760 ways.
Okay, so we have 32,760 ways. So what about number 3? So according to who's this? According to Miss Vanessa, it's 154,440. Okay, the correct answer is 51,891,840. Okay, let me double check. Baka mamaya ako yung nagkamali. Okay, so the answer is 51,891,840. And for the last one, what is the answer for the last one? 36,200. Ano yun? Mabasa. 3,628,800. Okay, that's correct, Mr. Paone. So we have 3,628,800. So I think all of you are able to use scientific calculator for permutation of n objects taken R at a time. So let's proceed now with the circular permutation. So how many minutes do we have? We still have 5 minutes. So can I end first muna? End ko muna tapos gawa na lang ulit ako ng bagong link.
Sige po, sir.
Sige. Patapos naman at malapit na.